Hi everyone. So this is the second part of our Fabric end-to-end project for real-time data analytics. I have shared the details of what we were planning to cover in the whole series. So this is the second part. In this particular video, I'm planning to cover 6 or 7 things, majorly hands-on. So if we look from the implementation point of view, first thing what we will be looking at today, how to create Fabric trial account, right? And what are the limitations of it? Who can create it, and why sometimes when you try to create the Fabric trial account, why it's failing, right? Second thing is, once the trial account is created, then we will be looking at two things: how to create the workspace, and then how to create the environment in the workspace. And we will be looking at what are the benefits of environment, what we can do in the environment, and all sort of things. Third thing, then we will be creating a notebook. In that notebook, we will be using Faker library, right, to generate the real-time taxi data. And three things what we will cover. We will cover what Faker library is, and I'll share most of the details what we need. Once we generate the taxi data, now this taxi data we will be sending to Azure Event Hub. So when we talk about Azure Event Hub, see the idea what I'm trying to say, whenever I'm touching any component, I want to deep dive into that component. So this generated taxi data will be sent to Azure Event Hub, right? In Azure, then once we touch the Azure Event Hub, we will be looking at how to create it, what are the different components of it, how the costing works in Azure Event Hub. Fifth point, one thing which is important when we connect Azure Event Hub with our notebook, we need to have our shared access signature, right? But the default shared access signature is not working with the notebook connection. So we will see how to generate the shared access signature for Azure Event Hub, which can be used into Fabric notebook. Sixth point, since we are talking about secrets here, right? We will be not exposing our secrets into notebooks. So we will be using Azure Key Vault, right? And then we will be looking at it, how to connect your Azure Key Vault with the notebook and read the secrets for the Azure Event Hub. I think this is all we're gonna be doing today. So let's start. First thing first, how to create the Fabric trial account. See, there are two ways, right? If Fabric trial account cannot be created with your personal accounts, for example with your personal email ID at Gmail or at Yahoo, you have to create a user first. So if I go here so first thing what we have to do, we have to go to our Azure portal.azure.com, right? In that portal.azure.com, you have to go to from here we have to go to Microsoft Enter ID. In Microsoft Enter ID, we have to go to manage, then we have to go to users. You can go to users directly as well, and then we have to add a new user, right? Let's create a new user. And one thing which is important here, see, the domain will be your the primary account email ID. So with on microsoft.com, so Rajput Nilendra Gmail, this is my primary account, right? And on microsoft.com is my domain name. So let's say I want to create a new user, test Fabric, right? What I want display name to be test Fabric itself, right? And then I can create auto generated password, but let's say we don't need it, we can create our own password. No, choose your own, and I can say choose your own. Come on. just choosing my password, and account is enabled, and I can say review and create, right? And I'll say create here. So what it is doing now, so I have so many users created, right? I have one more user created here. Once I'll see here, let's refresh it. So we have a test fabric user created, right? And then what we have to do, we have to, let's go for incognito window for the moment, and I'll say app.fabric.microsoft.com, and then I will use my test fabric. So I'll just copy it. I'll say Control V here, and I'll say submit. Right, what it is doing now, it is creating, it is asking me for the password. So let me use the password what I have created. And I'll say sign in. And it is asking me for to create a new password, the current password. I'll just quickly do it. And I'll say my new password. And I'll say sign in. Okay, it is asking me whether I need to go for two-factor authentication. I'll say I'll do it later, but after 14 days you have to do that for sure. Okay, so what it did for me, it just created a fabric trial account for me, right? And I'll say accept, and I'll say sign in. The thing what I'll do now, I'll cancel this account because I don't need it. I don't want to waste the free accounts. But once this all is done, your trial account will be created, and this trial account will be something like this. So see, I have created a new trial account with RTI, real-time intelligence, with the same process, right? So it's in 38 days left in my trial account. It's a license type is free account, and I can cancel my trial anytime. So before we jump ahead, let's look at few things which are important. There are a lot of people who are trying to create the fabric trial account, but their trial account is not getting created. There are so many reasons for it, right? So the trial account is for 60 days, and it offers you all the users to explore the platform capabilities, including creating and managing fabric items, right? And the if you look at, and if you know about Microsoft Fabric licensing, it is F64 account, F64 shared account. The F64 capacity is shared across a lot of people, right? So first thing, so duration of trial account is 60 days. That's the important part. Which access to the non-fabric item is restricted unless upgraded to the paid account. Okay. Now capacity limits. So each tenant is limited to the maximum of 5 trial capacities. Once this limit is reached, additional trial account cannot be initiated unless existing trials are cancelled and upgraded. And that's why I have not created the trial account, right? So this is the reason. Now, some advanced features may not be available during trial period, as the trial license, as the trial provides a license similar to PPU. Not all the regions supports the trial account. So if your trial is not getting created, please have a look where the support is. While the users can create and collaborate the fabric items during the trial, workspaces create under the trial capacity may lose functionality if the trial expires without upgrading it. And I have known this issue in production as well. Now, what are the known issues in creating the fabric trial account? And this is what I was talking about, right? So if a tenant administrator has disabled the user can try paid features settings, user cannot start the trial account. So this setting should we should check this settings if you are not able to create it. Lot of people are not able to create the trial account because of this. This is important part. If your Microsoft account is less than 90 days old, there are a lot of people who are reporting that they are not able to create the trial account, right? if the tenant has already reached the maximum number of free trial capacities. New trial cannot be created unless existing ones are upgraded. There are some browser related issues, and there are sometimes the organization policies tied to work emails which may block the Fabric trial account. For example, in my company, I cannot create Fabric trial account because my administrator is not allowing me to do it, right? Cool. So this is, I want to focus on this part first. What are the known limitations? So people might be confused, why the trial account is not getting created. So what I have done, I have created a Fabric trial account, right, with my user RTI at on Microsoft.com, and then here, once you go to your trial account, you will reach to this page, right? And then what we have to do, we have to go to Fabric, and here we have to create a new workspace. I have already created it, but let me show you how to do it. So let's create test WS, right? The name is available. The name should be unique. We haven't touched the domains yet, but we can discuss about them later. When you go to the advanced here, there are 3 types of license mode. You can select the pro license to use the basic Power BI features and collaborate on reports and dashboards. I have trial account, this trial account, the same thing I was talking about, that it's the trial per user license to try all the new features. And then we have premium per user, and that is PPU. Then we have premium capacity and a number of other licenses. These all are not important at the moment, but you can select the semantic models storage format, whether you need to go for the smaller one, larger one, and we can discuss about them later in the future videos. See, I have the capacity, only one capacity, that is my trial capacity, and this is what I was talking about. This capacity is F64, and this capacity might be shared across a lot of users, right? I'll say apply at the moment, and my workspace is created. In my workspace, I have a lot of different settings, but if we go to manage access, right, here you can add people who can access to this workspace. Let's try it, and this is the point I was talking about, right? And here if you see, you have 4 types of role: admin, member, contributor, and viewer. Admin obviously is the administrator. Member I think member has the same sort of rights. I can look at it. So let's see. I don't want to guess anything, so I can say here Fabric workspace roles, right? Because I don't want to guess, I don't want to provide any wrong information. So let's see. Okay, cool. So admin is the owner of the workspace, and it can do everything. For example, it can update and delete the workspace. It can add and remove the people, including other admins, and then it can add the other members. It can reshare the items and a number of other things, right? Now when we talk about member can do everything what admin can do, except 2 things. It cannot update and delete the workspace, right? And it cannot remove people, add or remove people, including other admins. These are the 2 things what members cannot do and admin can remove, right? Now this is where I was confused. Admin member can add other members, but with the other members with the lower permissions. Okay, now if we talk about contributor cannot do any sort of admin activities, cannot delete workspace, cannot add or remove people, cannot add anyone, cannot allow others to reshare the items, cannot modify the workspace items, cannot modify anything. So simple things. Contributor cannot modify or create any database, warehouse, SQL database items, cannot add or remove any item, cannot delete the workspace. What it can do, it can view and read the content of the data pipeline, view and read the KQL, connect to SQL analytics endpoint, read the lake house and everything, right? Now what Weir can do, Weir is only able to view the items. It can view data pipelines, read the data pipelines, read and connect to the KQL databases, connect to SQL Analytics endpoint and read the lake houses. Anything else? Yes, it can view the execution. So it means if we look at from very simple point of view, admins are the most powerful and the owner of the workspace. It can add and delete anyone, even delete the workspace as well. It can add and delete other admins as well. Members can do everything except two things. It cannot add delete the workspace. It cannot add the it cannot delete the other admins, and then it can only add the people with the lower permissions. Third thing is your contributor. Contributor can view the data, right? And it can read the lake house. It can read the data pipeline and write the data pipelines. Most of the time, developers will have the contributor access most of the time, right? And then viewer can only view the data. That's all. So if I go to my taxi KV workspace here, not here, right in Fabric, and let me do one thing. Yeah, cool. Now we have admin, member, contributor and viewer. What we want to say, let's say we want to add the member, and we can say here, do we have any user Fabric? Let's see. No, because I didn't created any user, but this is how it works, right? One thing which is important, if you go to workspace settings, since I'm the admin, right, I can go here at the bottom and I can say remove this workspace. If I'm the contributor, if I'm the member, I won't be able to see this screen, see this option. Other things we can look at them later, but they are not important at the moment. The second thing is, I have already created a workspace called taxi data workspace. In this taxi data workspace, if you want to create a new notebook, this is how we do it. We just go here, and what we want to create, we can create anything. We can create data pipeline, data flow, event stream, and we will be covering a lot of these. But what we want to create, we want to create a notebook, right? And when you go here, and you can say what is the name of the notebook. So here, first, as a best practice, just always say what's the name. So I'll say test notebook, right? And this is how you create the notebook. One thing which is important again in the notebook and even in the workspace. So if I go to my workspace, if I go to workspace settings, when we go to the bottom of the screen, what we see here, we have Power BI delegate setting, data engineering, data science, and in here we have Spark settings, right? So what it means that my notebook will be using Spark framework to run the code behind the scene, right? And then by default, use the automatically created start pool, right? This is automatically what Fabric has created for us, and they are pre-warmed and always ready. And or we can create a custom pools for the workspaces and items in the capacity. If the setting customized compute configuration is turned off, this pool will be used for the workspace. So default pool will be used if the setting customized compute configuration for the item is turned off, right? But for now, we're gonna be using this. So this is the setting. When turned on, user can adjust the compute configuration for the individual items such as notebooks and Spark job definition. So if I turn it off, it means I won't be able to create the custom pools, and my default pool will be used. The thing what I want to cover here is environment, right? When we see here, there's a default environment here in which we have the runtime version as 1.3, and then we have other versions as well. For example, we have Delta 2.4 and Delta 3.2. So by default, Fabric makes sure that the latest version is always your default runtime version, but what it means that if you want any other version, you can use it and you can save this. So all your notebooks inside this workspace will be using this one, right? So for example, default environment will provide the Spark properties, libraries and developer setting for the notebook, and Spark job definition in the workspace when the user don't select the different environment. Now, what is different environment, right? So Spark provides a way in which we can create our own environment, which are with our own custom libraries, which are available to all the notebooks which are available, which wanna be running in this workspace. So if you go here, we have created a new notebook here, right? So let's go here and let's select the filter, and this filter will help you what item you want to see. I only want to see the notebook. So, and if I go back here, this is the test notebook what we have created just 2 seconds back. Now here what we see that we have Spark Python, and obviously as any other Spark, we can run Spark SQL, Spark R, Scala and Python. And even we can, if you don't want to use Spark, we can go for normal Python and not T-SQL, right? But the thing what we would like to cover here is workspaces, workspace environment. So we have workspace default, which is selected by default. But what I want to show here, that we can create a new environments. So if I go to the new environment and let's say I want to name this test env, and I'll say create. Now in this new environment, what I can do so there are built-in libraries which are coming in by default. There are some public libraries which search and add the public libraries from .yml file, and we can do one important thing here, that we can create our own like we can download jar, upload jar. Like let's say we want to upload some custom libraries, what we can do, we can upload jar.vhl, .tjar, and install the custom libraries, right? And they will be available if you run your notebook and Spark job definition in this environment. Now if we go here, like there's so many public libraries. For example, there's a public library called Faker, F-A-K-E-R, see, and when you say Faker here, and we can say save first, we can publish as well. So once we save it, the status will be saved. And now if we publish it, so now it is saved, but it is not yet available because you have unpublished changes. To apply these changes to the notebook and Spark job definition in this environment, select publish to save your changes without whatever, like we have to publish it, right? So let's say publish it. What I'm publishing, I'm adding the Faker library into my this Spark environment. At the same time, you can select your new Spark pools, right? And then you can select the Spark properties. These are the properties what you want to add into the Spark configurations. And then we have resources here. The resources are uploaded file which we available. These are modules, not libraries. These are modules which you want to have. Let's say you have some custom code or something else which you want to bring here into the notebook, and use the notebook configuration setting to install files to each session, right? Any changes you make here will automatically be published. Cool. The cool thing is I have already created a notebook first. Before we jump ahead, what are Spark environment, because I want to cover something here. Where is this? Not this one. Trial account I have completed. Do we have that here? Okay, cool. let's read about Spark environment, because this is important, right? Why we are doing it? Microsoft Fabric environment serves as a central configurable container that consolidates all of the hardware and software settings need to run Spark based workloads. By setting up an environment, user can define everything from the Spark runtime and compute configuration to the libraries and shared resources required for their analytics and data engineering tasks. What is the purpose? Purpose is we can consolidate all the settings. So environment in MS Fabric allows user to select appropriate Spark runtimes, configure compute resources, install the necessary libraries from the public repository, even local resources. Now the important part, obviously this all is fancy, right? We have a Spark environment and we can use that. Important thing is, let's say you have 20 developers and you want them to use the same set of libraries. What we can do, we can create a Spark environment and we can make sure that the default environment for each notebook under the workspace will be that environment. So that's where the second line is: streamlined update and consistencies. Change made to the compute configuration of libraries can be previewed, saved, and used, right? Resource sharing and collaboration. File and resources uploaded within an environment are available across all the attached notebooks. Customizability and flexibility. Fabric environment provides a tailored compute properties such as number of cores, memory allocations on demand to meet the demands of the workloads. For example, default will have 8 cores, we can look at it, but you can select the bigger cluster based on your Fabric capacity. Integration with Fabric environment. So workspace default and environment can be attached to the workspace as the default setting. The same, this is important because it brings the consistency. Development production scenario, the same environment setup can be configured for development and production, so there won't be any glitches. Let's say we developed a notebook into development notebook, right? Development environment, and when we publish it or when we deploy it in the production, it fails because the environment file is not available. This is where it can prevent it. I'm hoping that Spark environment or Fabric environment is very clear now. So what we have done, we have created the environment. So now here, what we want to do, let's draw it here. So what I'm planning to do, I'm planning to use Faker library. This Faker library will be used inside our workspace. Inside our workspace, we have created a notebook. Inside this notebook, I will be using Faker library. This Faker library will be generating real-time taxi data, or real-time, not let's say, sorry, real-time taxi data. And then once this data is generated, we will be using Event Hub, REST API to send this data to Event Hub, right? Yeah, this is what we are planning to do. Okay. So if we, first thing what we have to create, let's create the Event Hub first, and let's see what are the different components needed for the Event Hub. So if I go here into my Azure portal, what I have done, you can create a resource. First of all, you have to create a resource group. I have already created a resource group called Taxi Rides Analytics. Inside this resource group, if you want to create an Event Hub, you can literally search here Event Hub, and Azure Event Hub will be shown here. Event Hubs, right? When you click it here, you can say create. It will ask you for certain things. For example, what is the name? So first thing, you are creating a namespace, and then you will create an Event Hub, right? So it is inside my Taxi Ride Analytics. So here you have to give Event Hub name, right? And I'll say test whatever. I can give any name here as far as it is available. So it is not available in, I'll say 1212, anything you can say just to make that name unique. And then you can select the pricing tier. I will be selecting, we will cover the pricing tier if you need, but for now, let's select which is the cheapest. I'll go for basic one because we might not need it a lot. You can select the throughputs, and I'll say, let's say 2 throughput units, and I'll say review and create. Let's say advanced first. So TLS 1.2, networking public access. I don't want any tags, and I'll say create. So it might take a couple of seconds. So validation has succeeded. I'm not creating it because I already have Event Hub. So I'll go to my resource group and see we have an Event Hub called Taxi Rides. Once you create the Event Hub namespace, inside the Event Hub namespace, you have to create a Event Hub, right? Now, let's see. In the Event Hub, you can say here test EH, which should be fine, I think, yeah, because this Event Hub is only looking for names inside my Event Hub namespace. Event Hub namespace should be unique because it looks across the Azure names across the world, right? Then we can say partition, we can say 1 here, cleanup policies, we can say delete, retention hours 1, we can go for minimum 1 hour and maximum 24 hours 1 day, and we can say capture what we want. The capture details are not available in the basic, that's fine, and I'll say review and create. So it is the validation succeeded. Is still, again, I'm not creating it because if we go to taxi rides, we have already created an Event Hub called taxi real time, which is active. Message retention is 1 hour, partition count is 1 with the same categories. Okay, now before we jump ahead, I have created a very small Event Hub kind of notes for us. Azure Event Hub is a fully managed big data streaming platform for event ingestion and ingestion service provided by Microsoft. It is designed to handle real-time data streams and process millions of events per second. What are the key features? It has high throughput and scalability. Event Hub can produce massive volumes of events per second and scalable scale automatically to handle increased loads. The partition consumer model. Data is divided into partitions, enabling parallel processing by multiple consumers. This model ensures scalability and allow multiple consumers to read specific subsets of data. Data retentions. Events can be retained for configurable period up to 7 days by default. For basic, I think it's 24 hours and 1 hour. Real-time and batch processing supports both. So Event Hub can support both real-time streaming and batch-oriented data capture from Azure Blob Storage or Data Lake. Protocol, HTTPS we will be using, but it can go for AMQP, Kafka. Security, by default, it supports rollback RBACs, shared access policies. This is what we're going to be using today. And then it supports encryption in the transit. We can see that we have created a namespace first. So what is the namespace? Namespace is a container for one or more event hubs, right? It acts as a management boundary for the configuration, capacity allocation, and security settings. So it's a container. Then inside container, we have multiple event hubs. Into our case, we have created one. It is the core entity where events are ingested. It can have multiple partitions for scalability. Then we have partitions. Partitions are the logical divisions of event hub that enables parallel processing of the data streams. Events with partitions are processed in orders. Then consumer groups, which we haven't seen yet, are the logical views of the event stream that allow multiple consumers to read the same data independently. Then we have consumers and producers. Producers sends the event to the event hub. Consumers read the event from the event hub. Cool. Question: in our case, who is the producer? Our producer is notebook into our fabric, which is using Faker library to generate the data, and then it is sending data to event hub. So this is producer in our case, right? Namespace serves as a container. We can see it. What is the pricing? So costs are influenced by total number of throughput unit allocated. So less the throughput unit, less the cost is, data durations, and feature like auto inflate for scaling, right? We will be using in this particular tutorial, we will be using Azure Event Hub REST APIs to send data to Event Hub using shared access signature. Um, so REST APIs can be used to send event, right? It can use the post method in the JSON format, and it will use the SAS token or Azure AD token. I'll show you all the details into the notebook, but I'm hoping that it makes things clear that we have Azure Event Hub and we have created a namespace first, then Azure Event Hub, and then inside that Event Hub, let's do one thing. So this is our namespace. Inside this namespace, we have this Event Hub, right? Inside this Event Hub, what we can capture event, process data, and number of other things. So this Event Hub is the real I can say the Event Hub inside the namespace, which will do all the data retention and processing, right? If we go back, this is where, not here, we go to our Event Hub. This is where all the controlling access control settings around shared access policies, scalability, geo recovery will done for all the. This is a container, right? If we control the properties in the container, it will be replicated inside all the Event Hubs. So one thing what I would like to do here, I would like to do the shared access policies for all the Event Hubs inside this. So what I'll do now, I'll create a new shared access policies, and I'll call this, let's say, taxi data, and we can name it anything. And what this shared access policy can do, it can do everything. It can manage, so manage is the most powerful policy, but we can, let's go for all, create. So what it will do, it just created a new policy. So before I just created the send policy inside this policy. So once this policy is created, the most important bit for us here are primary key, right? Then primary key, secondary key, connection strings, primary and secondary. But we need primary key here because we're gonna be using this primary key, right? I'm hoping this is clear. So you have to create a shared access policy, and then you have to store this primary key somewhere, or you can copy it later as well. That's not a big deal. Now, since we don't want to expose this primary key into the notebook, we want to store this primary key into the Azure Key Vault, right? This is what we would like to do, and this is what I was telling you. So what I have done here, I have created, let's go to home again, so it will make sense. In fact, let's go to taxi ride analytics. Inside the taxi ride analytics, what I have done, I have created a new key vault called taxi KV, or the taxi key vault. Creating the key vault is very simple. You just have to go to resource, create, and you can create it. Inside this key vault, I have created secrets, not here. So one important thing, and I don't know why it's going like this. So when you see here, this is my default directory, and here I'm not allowed, and I haven't explored it yet. If you guys know, you can comment it here. It's not allowed here. So what I have done, I logged in through my this one RTI user into the other what we call into Azure instance of the Azure portal, and I went to the same taxi KV key vault here, and I go to secret here. So here I'm able to create the secrets here, right? So what I did here, I say generate, let's say my name is test taxi secret, something like this, right? And if we go here, go back, taxi rides, shared access policies, and we have created taxi data, and I asked you to don't show this to anyone. So what we do here, we just copied it, we go here and we paste it here, and we say create. That's good, right? And I have already created the other one called key or Event Hub key, but this is again the same thing, just to show you guys. So this is now what we have to do. We have to read this event key or taxi secret whatever into notebook, right? Cool. So if we go to the, I have created a notebook called producer Let's read this notebook. Cool. Inside this notebook, I'm using environment taxi data. So if I go to this environment quickly, this environment has custom libraries. What is going on? So if I say publish here, okay, so yeah, there were two custom libraries. I'm not sure what's going on, but there's two custom libraries. So I'll say publish all for a moment, hoping that they should publish. It might take, you can keep working in the meantime. Okay, that's fine. Let's see. So I have custom environment here. So publish is succeeded. Which publish? Anyways, I don't know. It's in publish is succeed. Let's see. So if we go to taxi workspace, if we go to our notebook, right? Let's do one thing first. Let's connect. There are two types of session. Again, I will go for new standard session. We can explore the differences between those two sessions later, but let's connect it here. Before the session is connected, what I'm doing here, I want to retrieve data from Azure Key Vault. First thing what we have to do, we have to get the Azure Key Vault URI, right? The Azure Key Vault URI is very simple, or it should be somewhere here, overview. See, this is your Azure Key Vault URI, HTTPS, but in general, your Azure Key Vault name, then vault.azure.net is your Azure Key Vault URI, okay? So I have given here Azure Key Vault URI, and then we have to give the secret name. What is secret name? Secret name is key, right? And then we have to use ms spark utils dot credentials dot get secret, and then we have to pass two parameters, that is your Azure Key Vault URI and secret name. That's all. But before this thing, we have to do one more thing which was important, and I missed it. And that important part was if we go to the Key Vault, we have to add our user as the secret officer, right? So if we go to here, add role assignments, and then we have to search here officer or something, secret officer, Azure Key Vault secret officer, and go for next. Which members do we want to add? We can say here select members, and I'll say here, now this is where all the members will be available, so I'll say RTI. Next, select, and we can go for review and assign. It will fail, I know, because it's already assigned. So see, the role assignment is already there, right? But this is what you have to do to make that thing work. Hoping that session is taking time, so let's move ahead. So if this is successful and you print the secret value. If this connection is successful, your secret should be retrieved as redacted. Sorry. Okay. And in this way, you are getting the keys from Azure Key Vault, right? Important part, and this is how you will make your environment secure, right? So nobody can see the secret of your Azure Key Vault. Okay, till the time this session is getting started, we can learn about Faker library, right? I will go into the code, but what this Faker library is, let's go into the theory first. So what I have done, I have again created a small note section for us. See, why we are using Faker or any sort of faking the data, because getting the real-time taxi data is not easy. There are batch files available, like for example blue taxi data or New York taxi data, but that's batch data, right? And we want to learn how real-time intelligence work, and we need our real-time data generated, and that's why I'm generating fake taxi rides data using Faker library. Now, what Faker library is? Faker library is an open source tool to generate the fake or synthetic data for testing, development, and other purposes. It is available in multiple programming language, including Python. We're gonna be using Python. How this library works? It has two important things: data providers and formatters, right? So it uses providers to define the categories, like which type of categorical data what we need. We need names, address, or emails, and then we have formatters to generate a specific type of data inside those categories. We will look into it. For example, a person provider includes formatter like name for generating names, while addresser provider includes formatter like address to generate address, right? Since this is Faker library, each method call generates the random value. Each instance, for example, calling faker.name will generate the random name. Faker.address will generate the random address. The randomness is powered by internal random number generator. Now we have seeding for consistency. For example, Faker allows seeding its random number generator to ensure reproducibility. By setting the seed faker.seed, for example 42, you can generate the sequence of data across multiple runs. Localization, Faker supports multiple locales. For example, it can tailor it for different regions and languages. Custom providers, you can create your own custom provider and you can add it to the library. It's very easy to use. Only 4 lines of code. Most important, you have to import the Faker library, you have to instantiate it, and then you have to use fake.name, fake.address, fake.email to generate different stuff. Anything else? Let's see whether the session is not getting started here. So let's go ahead. It has provider formatter I have covered, right? So Faker organizes the functionality and around data provider, which are the modules or classes that define methods for generating specific type of data. Random data generation and seeding I have covered it. Localization and customization I have covered it. One important part which is interesting is you can add your new provider. One of the greatest feature and strength is its extensibility. In Python, for example, you can create custom provider class extending Faker's base provider class and then attach it to the existing generator via add provider method. This makes it straightforward to add entirely new method that output highly specific or domain oriented data. Okay, so latest version is 36.1.0 and still our session is not getting started. So if I go here and let's see, other people in your organization may have access to the notebook and Spark job definition. Carefully review the item before. That's fine. I'll just give it a second. And this is the problem what we have sometime with the trial account, right? And the production level account, this might not be the problem. What I can do, I can stop it for a moment and then I'll say run all, and let's see if it don't works, then we might have to stop this video for some time and then I'll come back. So what we have done here till the time it's opening, we have used the taxi data generator. So this code was already run, so we'll do it now. We'll show you the result, right? So what I'm doing here, I'm generating the fare amount, generating the extra, MTA tax, tip amount, toll amount, improvement charges, and then I'm doing some calculation around total amount. So what is the total amount? Total amount will be around fare amount, extra, tip, tolls, improvement, etc. And then we are generating the pickup date time and the drop time, right? One thing what, although this is a fake data, but we want it to be real. So session is started now. Pickup date time is any date time between 1 year and now, and the drop of date time will be pickup date time plus some time extra. I want my ride to be between 15 minutes to 60 seconds. And then what I'm creating a dictionary called ride, in which I'm using now. So see, when I go here, this is where I'm using the fare amount, using random, like any number. I'm not using faker library here. The faker library main thing is coming from this point, right? Anyways, I'll share this code, so that's not an issue. And why I haven't used a faker amount here, because I want faker library don't support this custom calculation, because obviously if you generate the fake data, the custom calculation won't be accurate, and that's why we haven't used the custom faker library here, right? Cool. And then we have passenger name, address, drop off address, pickup time, distance, vendor ID, date time, etc., longitude, latitude, rate code ID. So when you see this is the same structure what we have in the New York taxi data, which is publicly available. I'm using this, I have used the same format so that people can relate to it who have used the taxi data already. And then once the data is generated, we are using request.post here, response, URL, and all sort of things. Let's do one thing. Okay, let's try to run this first. So what it is doing, it is connecting to Azure Key Vault. It is going to the secret name called key. Then it is using MS Spark utils, and then using the get secret method of it. And then if this connection is successful, it should show redacted, right? And why the problem is here? What's going on? Okay, the problem is I want to stop it, because the problem was I have used the run all, so it is already started everything. So let's do one thing. I cancelled it now. So cool, everything is done now, right? So let's go back to the top. I'll explain all line of this code. So what it's doing, it is showing us redacted. It means it is successfully connected and get the secret value into my secret value variable, right? Now, what, let's go first, right? Let's do one more theoretical thing. We have covered Event Hub, generate data. Cool. So what we want to do in that notebook, right? We want to simulate the taxi ride and send them to Azure Event Hub, right? And securely retrieving the credential from Azure Key Vault, generate the shared access signature token for the authenticating with the Azure Event Hub, and then continuously pushes the randomized taxi ride data using an infinite loop to the Azure Event Hub, right? So what we have covered till this point, we have retrieved the key from the Azure Key Vault, right? So we have used Key Vault URI and the secret name ehkey, and then we have used ms spark utils credential.get secret to query the Key Vault. Now, this was what I was talking about. We have to generate this SAS token. So Azure services like Event Hub or Service Bus use SAS token to authenticate clients. So in this particular code, we will be using SAS token that grant permission to send message to Event Hub, right? Okay, in this, let's see the code quickly. Okay, now what we want, we have created a function here called generated tax token, SAS token, and then we have our resource URI, and resource URI is something like this. Let's see it here. If I go here and let's copy paste it quickly, Control C, Control Z, Control C, and Control V. This is our namespace, right? And this is our Event Hub name. This is how the resource URI will be, right? I'll comment it. So now we have our resource URI, we have our key name. So what is the key name? Key name is ehkey, right? And then key value is the key which was stored into Azure Key Vault. One thing, key name is this part. So if we go into taxi ride analytics here and shared access signature, so this is the key name, right? So the two keys, one is for Azure Key Vault and one is for shared access policies. We have to use the shared access policy key name here because we are talking about shared access signature for Azure Key Vault, right? And then we have to give how much time we want this shared access signature to be valid for. I want it for 3600 seconds. And then this code is available on Azure portal as well, so don't need to worry about it. And SAS token has to be generated in a certain format, and this is that format. That okay, first of all we have to give this URI resource URI, and then we have to give the key name at the end. In between we have to get expiry and then encoded signature, and then resource SAS token will be returned, right? Cool. We have resource URI as namespace.servicebus.windows.net with the Event Hub. Then we have key name as send. Then we can remove this because we don't need it. Then what we know, we need the key value, and this is where the Azure Key Vault integration will come in picture. We are going for Key Vault URI, which is I have defined here. This is our Key Vault URI. Then secret name is ehkey. So Key Vault URI, and this we stored in the key value, right? And then we pass all of these into our resource URI, and the shared access signature will be created something like this. Important part, don't remove anything from this. So this shared access signature, and I have done this mistake, so I'm making it very clear that this shared access signature should be prepended or prefixed to the whole shared access signature. It's not like it's not part of the print, it's part of the shared access signature. Okay. So once this shared access signature is retrieved, what we have to do, we have to use this shared access signature to pass the data to Azure Event Hub, right? So what we will do now, let me run all of this cell again. So this is done. My shared access signature is created, and now my Event Hub, my events are generating. So let's see the events first. So they're sending, event sent successfully, and let's see the code. Okay. Now one most important part, I have already covered this all thing what it is doing from here. Now what we have to do in here, we have to give three things. We have to give Event Hub namespace, Event Hub name, and then the SAS token which we have generated on the top, and then we have to give we have to use the REST API. I'm using the REST API here to send the data or the messages to my Event Hub. So here how it works, you have to give HTTPS Event Hub namespace dot service bus dot windows dot name, Event Hub name, and then messages at the end, right? And in the header we have to pass the SAS token, and we have to give the content type as application JSON. And when you see here, this is where I'm using dictionary. So dictionary content will be used as part in the form of JSON. See, passenger name, Amanda Pates, and all sort of things. And now once this URL is created and this headers have been created here, what we have to do, we have to post this, right, with the data. So here what you see, we are creating response. What is response? Response is request.post. We are using our URL, which is Event Hub URL with the messages, and then we are using headers, which is our authorization headers. And then in the data section, we are using the RIDE. RIDE is nothing but our dictionary. We are using JSON.dumps because our URL or this REST API is expecting JSON data. Once it is successful, we are saying events are successful. If it is failed, we are saying event is failed due to that reason. Right now I have only sent, and yeah, one more thing. So I don't want to overload my Event Hub, so I'm using 30 seconds here, but let's do one thing. I'll do one thing here quickly. I'll stop this, and I want the data to be sent every 1 second, so it will be very quick, right? And I'll say run. Now see, so once, now it is sending data every second, right? And cool, this is all good. Now let's see whether this data is really getting sent and to the Event Hub. So what we will do, we'll go here, Event Hub, and let's see it here. Cool. What we can see, that from whatever time, last few minutes, so last, we can see that okay, there are few events which are there, messages, 2 events were there. Let's do one thing, since we are sending it quickly now, this messages numbers should go up. Number of messages are 9, incoming messages 9, 11. Let's see, incoming request sums, successful request, there are no failures right now, and I'll refresh it. So this is continuously sending data, right, every time. it is every second it is sending data. And if we refresh this page, and go back, sometimes it's not refreshed, that's not a problem. So I'll say refresh this just to show you guys that okay, the numbers are increased, but I know that the numbers will be there. Cool, I can see it now that the numbers are increased now to 18, 29, and the numbers. So this won't be this, obviously the number events are getting the real time, but this number might be delayed. Anyways, cool. Anything else which I have to cover? Trial account, fake library, licensing, generate data, and that's all, right, for today. So we have created the workspace. We have, let's see. So inside workspace, we have created the taxi workspace. Inside this workspace, we have created a producer inside this producer notebook. This is notebook. Inside this notebook, we have first connected to Azure Key Vault. We have retrieved the in fact, let's do one thing, because I will make it more simple if I go step by step. First thing, we have created the Azure Event Hub, right? Inside this Azure Event Hub, we have created the namespace first, then Event Hub, right? And then inside namespace, we have created the policy, shared policy, and we have named this policy as send, and we have given the manage permission to it, right? And then second, we have copied the primary key from here. Second thing, what we have done, we have created the Azure Key Vault. Inside this Key Vault, we have go to secret, and we have created a new secret, and we name that secret as key, and this PK has been stored there, this one, right? Third thing, we had created a new user into your Entra, right? And then we have used this user for our Fabric trial account, right? Then we logged into the Fabric trial account. We had created a workspace, and in the inside the workspace, we have named that workspace taxi workspace. Inside the workspace, we have created the notebook called producer Inside this producer we had first what we have done inside this, first we have connected to AKV, that's Azure Key Vault, using MS Spark utils, right? And then we have checked that when we printed the key, the redacted has produced. It means the Key Vault connection was successful. Second thing, what we have done for Event Hub, we have produced the shared access signature. For the shared access signature, we have used this MS Spark utils to get the primary key, right? And then we used the URI, and then some expiry, and then we have created the shared access signature. One thing what we have learned, that use the shared access signature what is produced as it is. Don't remove the shared access signature keyword from the beginning, right? Third thing, inside this notebook itself, we used Faker library to produce the taxi data with 16 or 17 fields, right? And then we have used the messages endpoint of this event hub, first event hub, to send data. And inside these messages, we have used three things: SES, header, right? And then we have done json.dumps for the data produced from Faker library. and then we use the response.post, and then at the end we have checked that okay, the data is getting populated here. Now the 206 messages are there, so data is populated there. So this is the first part of the tutorial where we generated the real-time data and the data is sent to the Event Hub. And now we will be using in the next tutorial other data sources, and we will show how to ingest this data using real-time analytics in Fabric. I'm hoping that this all makes sense what I'm trying to do. If not, please do comment and share your feedback. I would love to know more how we are going. So thanks a lot and really appreciate your time. Thank you.